Hi, it's Ashleigh from Sweet Dreams Bake Shop, and welcome back to my channel where I make a lot of cake and cookie decorating tutorials, as well as give a lot of baking business tips. And as usual, if you want to hear my pricing guide, please stay till the end of the video for all of the items that I'm going to be making today. The first one that I'm going to be starting off with is the main cake. Now, I'm making this for my friend's son, and he is turning 1. Now, she has 2 other children that I've also made cakes for on this channel, so she decided instead of going all out with the carved cakes, she wanted something a little bit tastier, a little bit different, and a lot more simple in terms of design. So we're starting off with my original vanilla cake that I like to use, and then I added a bunch of different spices to it, and now I'm creating the apple pie filling. And the apple pie filling is really simple. I got the recipe online. I will link it down in the description box below. And as an aside, if you guys are ever curious about the tools or materials that I'm using in my videos, they're always listed down in the description box below. And any purchases made through those links also helps to support the channel at no extra cost to you. So I created that apple pie filling while I was waiting for all of these cakes to cool, and these are 8-inch cakes, by the way. I am going to make this fairly tall. Normally, I probably do about 3 layers in my cakes, but this time around, I'm going to do 4 just to make sure that it's nice and tall and that it's going to feed the appropriate amount of people. Now, in order to put this filling in, I generally don't just put filling in and then hope for the best. I always make sure that I put some sort of icing dam. Otherwise, you're going to get a lot of slipping and sliding, and that filling will continually leak out. So a good tall dam is the way to go. And then I was pretty generous with the amount of filling that I put in between each layer. I didn't want to have any leftover filling, so because I personally find when I do that, I end up wasting that little bit of filling. So it's best for me to just use up all my product at once into whatever project I'm doing. And this is also kind of why when I was running my home baking business, I didn't offer super complicated flavors like that because they would end up going to waste if I didn't perfectly measure everything out. While that's setting in the fridge without a crumb coat on it, just to make sure that the layers are solidified and there's going to be no slippage, I am making my favorite chocolate chip cookie recipe. I will put that right in the upper hand corner where you can go ahead and check out the full video of how I make those. My friend was going for simplicity but super yummy, so these are the quintessential thing that she needed on her dessert table, and I went ahead and I added some little mini eggs to make it kind of look like dinosaur eggs on here. I love this cookie as well because they freeze really well, or you can keep them out in a container, and if you want them to remain soft, just put a little piece of bread in there and you will be good to go. This flavor here is some Mars bars on top, all chopped up, and then I put a really nice generous hint of salt on there, just so we get that salty, sweet caramelized note. All right, now back to our fairly tall cake. It felt really tall as I was icing this. Now, I will say that I'm icing this in kind of a weird way. I was running low on my Italian meringue buttercream, so I wanted to make sure that I got coverage on the bottom first. That way on the top, if I didn't have enough coverage, I could put some different things on there, but luckily it worked out in the end, and I didn't even have to do a crumb coat for that one. I've still been working on trying to eliminate the crumb coat on particular cakes. That little cake that you saw there was the smash cake. I'm doing the same thing by allowing that to set in the fridge while I get going on this portion. So I'm kind of doing some swags here, and a drop swag can be very intimidating if you've never done it before. The key to this is really making sure that you have even pressure as you're doing it. And yeah, you saw there I messed up a little bit. It's no big deal, especially on a cake like this, but I will say if you're doing swags for the first time, white on white is probably the best place to practice. That way it's not noticeable if you do end up kind of dropping your swag and things disconnect. That was a number 2 tip, by the way, if you want to go a little bit thicker, maybe a 3. I find a 4 can be a little bit too thick sometimes depending on what it is that you're doing. So I knew that I would be using this green color in multiple ways, so that's why I did put a coupler in this piping bag, so that way I can switch the tips really easily. And right now I'm using a leaf tip, and when you're using that leaf tip, you want to make sure that you lay it nice and flat, you squeeze, and then you pull off. Now back to that smash cake. So I'm letting that other portion sit in the fridge for a little bit, let those leaves solidify up before I add on some other details. Now I'm rushing through this portion. The reason is because I actually end up hating the way I do this smash cake, so I scrape everything off, and sometimes that will happen, especially because I wasn't given a specific design for this smash cake. I ended up making something and I was like, it's okay, but it kind of looks like it's for St. Patrick's Day. So I decided to start again on that. And don't worry, we will get back to that, but I do want to show you this in the exact order that I completed it in. So I scraped off all the decor and I put it back in the fridge just so it could recrust up and then I could recover it. Now I'm working on my little Fondant Dinosaur, and I got those cutters a long time ago back in the summer from Flycraft, so you guys can check them out. This is not a sponsored video, but this is one of the sets that they gave me. Now, in order to create that gold lettering that my friend wanted on her cake, I knew that I needed to actually do this in royal icing. I know that you can do it on buttercream if it's American buttercream and forms a crust, but I'm using Italian meringue buttercream, so I know that that's not going to work. So instead, I decided to go with royal icing, which I had left over, and I'm piping out all of my letters onto my parchment paper. I'm trying to mimic the type of font that she gave me. If you're not super solid with piping and you don't feel comfortable with that, go right ahead and project it on there. Or you can slip a piece of paper that has the fonts that you want underneath your parchment and trace it. By the way, I know that Happy Birthday doesn't have two D's, but I messed up on one of the D's, so I just decided to keep going because I'm just not going to put on that first D. Now I'm going ahead and adding a few of these dots here and there. I'm not even really sure what I wanted these dots to be, but I just wanted to break up some of that green because it was looking very, very green. So I'm just putting on some of these white dots. Whenever you're piping dots, you just squeeze, and once you want the dot to be over, you stop squeezing and you lift up. This was one of the mistakes that I often made before, so I know it sounds silly that I'm explaining how to do a dot, but you do want to make sure that you stop squeezing. All right, now here we are back to this smash cake that I was kind of frustrated with. I decided to ice this smoothly and then just take a cue from the main cake. So I did the same thing. I did the swags, I did those little vines, and then I also added some leaves. And then I went ahead and I added a border as well. And then I also went ahead and added on a different dinosaur on here, just to really make use of all of those dinosaur cutters that I have that I really haven't gotten around to using. Now what I'm doing is I'm just putting on some lettering onto the board. Again, this is to kind of connect the main cake with the smash cake. So I'm using the exact same font and lettering that I used for the main cake, but I don't have to do anything fancy with this one. I can put this directly on the board because there was no specification to make this gold. Now I have a few tips when it comes to actually creating and making smash cakes. Some of these things are coming from a business perspective, but a lot of these things are coming from a practical mom perspective. So hopefully you find some of these tips useful. The first thing I want to talk about is the actual cake itself. I've really learned to downsize the cake. A 6-inch looks great, especially when it's nice and tall. Then it looks really full in the pictures, and it's a great photo opportunity. But I will say that mostly the cake gets wasted. So to have that much cake wasted is quite a bit of work, time, and ingredients. Which brings me to my next point. I actually would probably use a box cake mix. I know, it seems a little bit off-brand because I do make a lot of things from scratch. And I think if you had a main cake and you were just throwing in a smash cake, then yes, you'd probably just use your regular recipe. But if you're making a smash cake for the sake of making a smash cake, I think I would go with the box cake mix. Because in all honesty, when a child is finished with their smash cake, no one can actually salvage it enough to eat it. And even if the cake underneath is still okay, chances are your baby or your 1-year-old has really been sucking on it. So you're not going to want to eat it. The other thing I want to talk about is buttercream. I think I would just go with a classic American buttercream because it's on the cheaper side, it's easy, it's also nice and light and fluffy enough that you're going to get those great shots that you're looking for from a cake smash. And finally, my last piece of advice that wasn't followed for this tutorial, I would go with a pastel buttercream. Even though food dyes are something that you can consume, they still end up dyeing your skin for a long time. So I personally would just go for something pastel. It's a little bit less mess. So to finish up our main cake here, I took those super dried royal icing letter transfers, which by the way, I did dry in my oven, which you can go ahead and check out this video in the right-hand corner if you don't know what I'm talking about. And then I placed it directly on the cake. Because this is Italian meringue buttercream, it doesn't form a crust, so I was able to press the letters right in there without any extra things needed to adhere it. And then I used some edible gold luster dust mixed with some vodka. You can mix this with a clear extract like a lemon extract, which doesn't leave any taste behind. And then I painted on all of these letters. In the past year of making a whole bunch of cakes for this channel, this was by far the easiest one to transfer, as well as the smash cake. It's sometimes nice to do something simple. And here are those chocolate chip cookies that I made earlier. We have some with the eggs, we have some without anything, and we also have those Snickers as well. And of course, it was time to blow out all the candles and sing for the birthday boy. I love this little dinosaur candle, super cute. And when we cut inside, it is so satisfying. I so rarely get to see the inside of my cakes. I only get to see them on the outside, and then I end up giving them away. Or if I am present, I end up not getting the best shot. But as you can see here, we've got a really, really nice, good chunk of that apple pie filling in there. And those apples were Granny Smith, so it's nice and tart mixed with that sweet and those cinnamon flavors. Now let's get into the pricing of this cake. So this cake is really not that overly complicated. It's not a tiered cake, so it is going to be under $200. I would charge $165 Canadian for that cake. A lot of that price does come from the fact that it's made with that filling inside. And I also had to make sure that I did all of those royal icing transfers in order to paint that gold. And I will say that anytime I have to paint something gold, that does drive up the price as well. The luster dust is expensive, and it's also a little bit more tedious to paint something. Now for the smash cake, that would be $40 Canadian just for the smash cake by itself. I know some people do deals with the first birthday and the smash cake, but I always sold mine separately. Now let's get into the subscriber submission of the day, and I think this is the first time that I've ever featured macarons on my channel. At least to the best of my knowledge, I think that's the truth. So definitely go and check them out. They have a ton of really fun macarons on their page. And if you want to be the next subscriber submission of the video, then please follow me at SD Bake Shop on Instagram, where you can either send me a photo or tag me in a photo. I do check them quite frequently, and I do try to make sure that I like them so you know that I've seen them. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you can be part of the Sweetie fam. Right now, I'm uploading weekly, so make sure you hit that notification bell so you know when I upload. Also, be sure to comment, request, or ask a question. I love hearing from you guys. Bye!